Happy Mental Health Month, baby! Hey. Whew. All right. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into it. Welcome to Educated, Empowered, and Enthused. My name is Dr. Megan Kaylee McPhee McGlone. You can call me Meg. I'm a physical therapist, fitness instructor, wicked fierce mental health advocate, and founder and owner of Lovely Bones, a one-stop shop for the holistic health and fitness services that you so deserve. Today, we're gonna be talking about why prioritizing your mental health is badass. It's May, it's Mental Health Month, but that doesn't matter at all. This is extremely important any month, all year round. When I was choosing the title of this episode, I wanted to pick a word that adequately conveyed the gravity of the situation. I ultimately went with badass because it's punchy, and when I looked up the definition of that word, I saw the words tough, uncompromising, and formidable. Formidable really stood out to me because when you read the definition, Webster's Dictionary definition of formidable, it says inspiring fear or respect through being impressively large, powerful, intense, or capable. I think fear in a sort of reverent way is also appropriate, but let's hone in on the respect piece there. It was perfect. It got across the exact message I wanted to get across. Inspiring fear for doing something massively impressive. We have absolutely come a long way, 100%. In my lifetime, in my parents' lifetime, in my grandparents' lifetime, how mental health was viewed then versus now absolutely deserves to be acknowledged that it's much better these days. And I'm so grateful for that. However, the stigma still exists. It's still there, lurking in the shadows. Just more often now, the threshold for feeling shame surrounding seeking mental health treatment has just moved up a little. I have loved ones who are wonderful people, really well-intentioned, that might think, let's say, someone with severe schizophrenia absolutely deserves to and should be seeking mental health treatment with a psychiatrist or medication or otherwise to ensure they're safe and they live their best life. That is all fine and dandy. But when it comes to the day-to-day, maybe still debilitating anxiety or depression, that situation they're conditioned to believe can be brushed off. Therapy is of course particularly stigmatized, and they might see someone in that bucket seeking therapy as a sign of weakness. They might think that that person should just stay strong, move forward. And that discrepancy is honestly a damn shame. Let me throw some stats at you. The latest from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, with data that comes from the CDC, the NIH, and other really trusted sources. Currently, in the US, 1 in 5. Think about all your friends, all your loved ones, maybe at a wedding, sitting in the same room. There's tons of people there. 1 in 5 people in the United States experience mental illness in their lives at some point. 1 in 20 people, which is still a lot of people, experience serious mental illness, something in the more severe category that is not only impacting your day-to-day life, but potentially debilitating you. Depression is a leading cause of disability in the United States. Not that this should be the end-all be-all metric, of course, but it is staggering to know that in a year, the loss of productivity from people suffering with depression or other debilitating mental illnesses costs the national economy about $1 trillion. That is a massive impact on society, and rates have risen over time. We know that this is an issue. We know that people are suffering mentally, and yet the emphasis on education and prevention in early childhood development, in schools, in adulthood as well, does not match the gravity of the situation as we know it. Even though we have this data and people know how common it is suffering under psychological duress, people very, very often do not seek help. Only 47%, less than half, of the people with mental illness in the United States seek help and seek treatment for it. The average gap between diagnosis or onset of mental illness and seeking help is 11 years. 11 years, over a decade. It's tragic, right? Totally tragic. I personally believe, in my humble professional opinion, that the biggest reason for the remaining stigma is lack of knowledge plus or minus fear and anger. I'll explain what I mean by that. And if you will, let me give you an example. Love to all my Irish and Irish American community. I feel that based on my family and the family I've married into, I can speak on this. The Irish are known stereotypically for shoving their emotions down and not being very open about their feelings. Love you guys. Love you guys so much. And if you look at Irish culture, look at the history, the Irish were victims of oppression, generations of oppression, and the Great Famine kept families in an environment where they were starving and suffering every day. When that is your day-to-day reality, it makes a lot of sense, right? When you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it makes a lot of sense that they felt that in order to press on and literally survive, they had to shove down some negative emotions. Pretty deep. And that was instilled for generations. Versus families that have been in the US for generations living in safe, wholesome environments might be a different story there. They might have had the space and time to process and talk about their negative feelings, and they might feel more open-minded today about the benefits of therapy. This is a super generalization and one concrete example that's hopefully meaningful to you. But my point is, if your Irish grandpa's giving you a hard time about going to therapy, you can lead with love and understand why many people might have gotten to the point where they're at right now, where they see physical disease and illness as something being separate of emotional distress, one thing being very important to prioritize, and the other thing being something that you can just shove to the side and by sheer will just get through. People who see prioritizing your mental well-being as not important or a sign of weakness or whatever similar thing in that bucket might not realize just how real and treatable mental illness can be. And they also might be angry and resentful that they were not raised in an environment where they were given the space and time and help that they may have needed to deal with their own psychological distress. So maybe they aren't even open to the knowledge and what science and evidence shows us today. I have a lot of love, a lot of sympathy for anyone who falls into that category. The anger and fear is something that we can't control, but sharing of knowledge is. So regarding that knowledge piece, I hope what I'm about to say blows your mind in a really empowering way and gives you a tool to foster a healthy conversation with a loved one or someone in your life who you think may be really negatively impacted by the stigma surrounding mental health. In particular, that seeking help equals a sign of weakness or is entirely unnecessary. Okay, stay with me here. Quote unquote, physical pain and emotional distress are both products, are both the sequelae of neurochemical reactions in your body. Let's compare back pain to the loss of a loved one. Back pain is super multifactorial, but speaking generally, let's say you are lacking strength and mobility in your low back. Your nervous system is an incredible living feedback loop that is trying to keep you safe and protected. So if the receptors in the joints of your low back are not getting great data or they're sensing that you are not safe, your nervous system perceives a threat, perceives an issue. Chemical messengers in that area will trigger the synapses of those peripheral nerves. Input will be carried from the peripheral nerves into your spinal cord, up your spinal cord, past your brainstem, and into your brain. Your brain then, the queen, the processing center of our body, is going to interpret that data. In the case of your low back situation, your brain is going to interpret the data and say, yeah, I am in fact nervous, that maybe they'll move in a way that hurts them. I don't feel like their back is equipped to handle all the forces of life right now. I'm worried about them. Let me send down an output via neurochemical transmitters yet again and turn on that pain alarm. Trigger some pain in that area as a functional signal to let that person in their consciousness understand that something might be wrong, that there's something you can do to make the nervous system feel better and at ease. In the case of low back pain, it could be a million different things, which is why you should seek individualized guidance by a trusted professional. But let's say it's that lack of strength and stability. Well, maybe doing certain exercises will give your nervous system the signals that you are in fact safe in space. Your brain will receive that data. It'll say, Great, thank you for that. I'm now vibing like you are absolutely fine, and I will turn off that pain alarm. It's magical. It is a chemical reaction. Very, very real. Emotional distress happens much the exact same way. The same neurological pathways. Take the loss of a loved one. A close loved one has passed away. I think everybody in the world could appreciate that that is a palpable, horrendous experience. It rocks your world. When your loved one passes away, there is no actual threat to perceive in the same way that inflammation in your body or blunt trauma would be a literal harm to you. Your loved one passes, there is no physical threat. However, the emotions that you feel are the result of certain chemical combinations, certain hormones, certain neurochemical transmitters being released in your brain, which trigger the release of cortisol and the stress cycle. Cortisol being released from you being really emotionally stressed very often triggers an inflammatory response in your body. It triggers certain actions from your organs, like your heart rate increasing, your breathing rate increasing, your muscles tensing, and this all causes certain chemical markers to again be perceived by the synapses of your nerves and travel up the same pathway, eventually getting to the brain, where the brain processes the entire situation as being a perceived threat, a perceived issue to you. And in turn, your brain puts out an output that sometimes causes physical pain, that can cause nausea, headache, increased muscle tension, all sorts of things. All this to say, if anyone tells you that any symptoms of your mental illness are just in your head, are woo-woo, are something that is not as important as other physical health symptoms, know in your heart, science has proven, research has shown us that that is just not true. Pain and emotional distress are extremely real chemical reactions. Your brain is causing symptoms in your body that are meant to be functional, that are meant to tell you something's wrong so that you act on them. So ask yourself, if the loved one in your life who sees mental health counseling as a sign of weakness would also make you feel shamed for going to a physical therapist for your back pain, then there's a huge discrepancy there, because the gravity of the situation is the same. If you have a loved one in your life who would make you feel shame for seeking any sort of medical help, then that's a whole other kettle of fish. The symptoms of mental illness are real, folks. People with mental illness are at higher risk of chronic disease, including diabetes and cancer, and people with mental illness are 2 times more likely to experience cardiometabolic diseases, which in and of itself should be enough reason to take this really seriously, because the leading cause of death in the US is heart disease. Doesn't matter where the stressors, where those chronic stressors are coming from, they will come for you in multiple ways in the systems of your body. When you are having a problem, you deserve to take care of it and feel really proud about it. Point blank, period. Now, all this being said, there are multiple ways you can take care of your mental well-being. Evidence shows that the combination of therapy and medication tends to be the most potent for reducing symptoms of mental illness. Most often studied is depression and anxiety, but evidence also shows that non-pharmaceutical approaches, including a combination of therapy and self-care, for example, can also be really helpful. A combination approach has been proven to be the most efficacious, but the decision on what specific treatments you choose should be individualized based on your clinical history, your needs, and your preferences. If you look at trying to seek treatment for your mental health in terms of a sort of conservative to ascending approach, you might start with self-care first. Things like exercising, sleeping well, nourishing well, hydrating well, doing all the things to take care of your health generally keeps your brain, which is part of your body, feeling really healthy and well, and functioning well as a result. All those things can help with emotional regulation. If that doesn't work well enough, maybe you then start to try explicit psychologically grounding and calming techniques such as breath work or mindfulness meditation, all of which have been shown to be really potent and helpful. I'll come back to breath work at the end. Keep listening on for an extremely fast-acting tool that could change the game for you in 30 seconds. All right, but continuing the ascension from conservative to more intense approaches, if those things don't work still, maybe you try talk therapy, mental health counseling with a trusted professional. I could go on and on about how amazing that is, explaining cognitive behavioral therapy as an intervention, for example, and how it looks at the triangle of your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and how manipulating one of those three things will have a ripple effect on the others, how changing your behaviors can change your thoughts and feelings, how shifting your thoughts every day can change your feelings and behaviors, so on and so forth. It's absolutely amazing. I'll leave that for a podcast for another day. Now we've gone through self-care, some explicit psychological mechanisms, and talk therapy. If all those things still don't help, maybe you try and you talk to a trusted professional about pharmaceuticals, medications that can be absolutely game-changing and life-saving for people. I personally think it's a great conviction for people to try other things before going to medications due to the side effects that often can come with them. But when you need them and you've exhausted the conservative options, they are an incredible tool in your toolbox to help you. That should also have zero shame attached to them. And if you've tried all of those things and it's still not cutting the mustard, there are more invasive techniques that you can try that I won't get into here, but you can discuss with a trusted mental health professional. Now, I say all of this, and I myself am not a mental health professional, right? But I do believe extremely strongly in the benefit of integrative care and psychologically informed healthcare. I have spent over 1,000 hours researching neuroscience and the effects of exercise on mental well-being, so I feel extremely equipped to give you the following tools in your toolbox for how to generally use exercise and a movement practice to benefit your emotional well-being. Now, it's extremely important that you have a well-structured, a balanced routine where exercise is dosed appropriately for you. Talk to me if you need any help with that. Assuming that you have an appropriate dose of exercise, any type of physical activity will do the following for you. Release a protein in the brain called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is neuroprotective for the nerve cells in your brain because it promotes neuroplasticity, being able to adapt and change your brain as well as hold on to memories, to function better, to have better mental acuity, preventative for things like dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Literally invaluable. That's just one. Number two, movement in general releases mood-boosting chemicals in your brain. Endorphins, which cause that runner's high you may have heard of. Serotonin, which makes you feel happy and pleased and grounded. Norepinephrine, which makes you feel really alert and sharp. Dopamine, which makes you feel really proud and motivated and empowered to keep doing this behavior that has made you feel so good. And movement in general just stimulates blood flow when you call upon your heart to need to work harder to serve the active muscle tissue in your body. That in turn, because blood flow does not discriminate, improves the cerebral, the blood flow to your brain. And by improving blood flow to your brain has healthier, more oxygenated tissue, and it's just a better environment, a healthier environment in general. That is the benefit of exercise in general for your mental health. Apart from that, I always say that ideally, your fitness routine includes three things, a balance of them: strength training, cardiovascular work, and mobility. And those three different things have specific impacts on your brain. You can use a well-structured strength routine to build mind-muscle connection, to improve the general neuromuscular circuitry in your body, and yet again, just keeping you healthy in general, which benefits your brain. When you do dedicated cardiovascular work, this again improves your blood flow and your brain blood flow in general. Walking, going out for a walk, even 10 minutes, even 5 minutes around the block. Walking can help you with emotional regulation. If you are sitting at home stewing and you are really going through it and you go out for a walk, especially in nature, the walk requires you to have to look around, to perceive your environment, to look both ways in the street, to make sure that you stay safe. It's activating your prefrontal cortex, which is your judgment part of your brain. By activating that prefrontal cortex, it takes you out of the more emotional parts of your brain and allows you to think a little more clearly and a little more calmly about the issues that you're going through. It sort of relieves you from that really tumultuous place and brings you the peace and clarity that you so deserve. Magic. Try going out for a walk. Dancing, another form of dedicated cardiovascular work, introduces a novel neural experience to your body. Usually dancing involves flailing in ways that we're not doing in our day-to-day monotonous lives. And it's sort of, again, in the same way that the walk triggers that part of your brain, it snaps us out of our really heavy, difficult emotions, puts us in a place where we've released some energy and we're feeling more grounded and peaceful. That's cardio. Now, the last piece of my 3-part ideal fitness routine is mobility. Dedicated, intentional mobility has a million benefits. I could go on and on, but in the context of our emotional well-being, moving through a mobility flow practice, really thinking about how each segment of our spine is moving, thinking about where our limbs are in space, picturing our muscles actively getting us into certain positions, and really focusing on our bodies and the fluid movement in a meditative sort of way, gets us out of that emotional thinking brain and can ground you and make you feel so peaceful. Exercise is certainly not the end-all be-all for your mental health. As we went over, there are tons of treatments, tons of things you can try. The best approach is to do a combination of those treatments, but I will not undersell how powerful of an adjunct a movement practice can be to keep you mentally well. And the last specific tool I will teach you for your toolbox, hold on to your seat. This is so simple and so easy to apply. The last tool is intentional breath work. Many different kinds of breathing techniques are out there that can help you feel less stressed, that can help with symptoms of anxiety and depression as well. But the one I'll teach you today that is getting tons of hype in the research world is called the physiological sigh or the functional sigh. This is all dependent on that you've been cleared by your doctor, you have no breathing conditions that would be a danger to this situation, of course, making sure that you're well to do it. The key to implement calming breathing techniques is to make your exhale longer than your inhale. Why? Because when you have a nice long exhale, that is sending signals to your nervous system that you are safe, you are in a place where you can relax. When you're operating in a sympathetic nervous system state, in that fight or flight nervous system state, you tend to be really tense and on guard, versus when the parasympathetic nervous system or our rest and digest nervous system has taken over. That is the place where we can relax, we can heal, we can move through these really important processes in our body that keeps us stable and well. When we are in that rest and digest state, our heart rate is lower, our breathing rate is lower, our exhales are longer than our inhales, versus when we're in fight or flight, in that sympathetic nervous system state, our inhales are deeper because we're sucking in oxygen to have to run from the literal or perceived threat. So no matter what breath work you do, inhaling slowly through your nose with your eyes closed and exhaling nice and long through an open mouth like you're fogging a window will give you benefit no matter what. But if you want to harness the ultimate benefit and go through that physiological sigh, the specific breathing technique that I'm referring to, what you would do is, again, maybe you start with 4 seconds and 8 seconds. Adjust the time if you need to. I highly recommend closing your eyes to take out visual stimulus and again send signals to your brain that you are safe and calm. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. At the top of that inhale, take one more big gulp of air. And then open your mouth, fog the window, let it go for 8. Nice and slow. You have exhaled twice as long as you've inhaled. If you repeat that inhale for 4, one more gulp at the top, exhale for 8, or something similar, just ensuring that your exhale is longer than your inhale and you take that last gulp of inhale at the top. If you do that for at least 30 seconds, evidence is showing that that will have a potent impact on reducing your acute stress. If you do it for minutes at a time, the benefit increases. If you make that a practice in your day-to-day life and do this type of breath work consistently, research is showing that you will have a long-term, lasting positive impact on your mental health. That's it, just breathing. It is super, super important of me in my privileged position to acknowledge that sometimes in life, you just don't have the emotional space, you just don't have the finances, you just don't have the resources, whatever it may be, to really prioritize your mental well-being or your health in general in the way that I believe you deserve. And that's not your fault at all. But I do believe that this specific breathing technique that takes 30 seconds is doable for anyone and any situation as long as you have a place with safe air quality to do it in. It is super accessible and super approachable. Even if you don't believe it'll help you, if you are in a dark enough place where you don't believe that'll be helpful or you think it's woo-woo, please prove me wrong. Please, I challenge you, I invite you to prove me wrong. Just try it once. Give it at least 30 seconds. And I hope that you feel even marginally better as soon as humanly possible. If you are struggling, know that you are not alone. If you're living in the United States, some key resources that I would highly recommend are National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI. You can search online. They have a helpline and tons of resources. Samaritans also has a texting helpline that you can contact 24/7 if you're in acute danger of suicide risk or otherwise, or you are just really struggling and going through it. The people at Samaritans are amazing. In the United States also, there's a 988 hotline that you can call, similar to 911 if you are in a mental health crisis. Psychologytoday.com is a great resource to find a mental health counselor near you, someone who can accommodate your needs, like maybe you need to be online only or what have you. You can ask your primary care physician if you have one for a specific recommendation or to go through standardized diagnostic protocol to help you understand the severity of what you're dealing with and what treatments might be the best for you at that stage. And you can also absolutely use, although it's not the end all be all, my YouTube channel that has free mobility flows, exercise classes, and breathwork videos that are designed to help you calm your body and ease your mind. If you need the support of a trusted healthcare professional who can help you get out of chronic pain and give you a workout routine that benefits your body and mind, someone who prioritizes your emotional wellness as much as your physical gains, look no further. Lovely Bones, Dr. Meg has your back. If you listen to this episode, thank you as always for your support. You can visit lovelybonespt.com to learn more or to contact me anytime. I am so honored to be speaking on this subject. It is so incredibly important. No matter where you're at in your journey, if you're having small bouts of acute anxiety or if you are experiencing severe mental illness, you matter. You are resilient. There are treatments out there that can help you. You are so not alone and you deserve to feel and live well.